Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. Hello, everybody. I hope wherever you are, it's in a beam of sunshine right now, because I think we all need a little bit of sunshine in the winter.
Beam of sunshine.
Be the beam of sunshine. Also, just embrace the beam of sunshine. Yes.
Beam of sunshine. Shine bright like a diamond.
Or shine bright like a diamond. Yes, absolutely.
In a beam. Like the diamond is
in a beam. Be the diamond in the beam of sunshine.
And
Love
it's producing a spectrum. Roy G. Biv.
You're
Roy
just refracting that light onto other people so that they can bask in your sunlight. Love it.
Yeah. What's been your beam of light?
Ooh, what's been my beam? You know what? My beam of light has been that the soil is not currently frozen, and I can weed a little bit and just kind of get into the vibe and just enjoy some of that warm sunshine and just weeding the things and getting my hands dirty and having to like scrub my nails at the end of the day. That's been my little beam of sunshine lately.
I like that.
What about you?
Oh, I'm just in complete darkness, Alexis. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
The bones have to be like showing some buds out there.
Yeah, we're getting ready to pop off out there with the plants. This week in particular, so I made some cookies, just some chocolate chip, scratch cookies with a recipe that I honed it over COVID. And I remembered there was one tweak to it that I didn't do this time. They were still very good, but I used to do where I would make a batch and then I would ball them and freeze them. And be able to pull it out and do two in the toaster oven or whatever for a little plus up. And that is equal parts fun and dangerous.
Yeah, I can't be trusted with something like that.
Delicious, amazing, fresh baked cookie on demand, 15 minutes start to finish.
I have also been baking a little bit more lately, mostly because I have so many lemons. I got to do something with them. But I have been enjoying getting back into the baking. We made some scratch cookies over Christmas, and it's been a long time since I'd made some scratch cookies. And we just used we didn't have enough of one type of chocolate, so we were just using all these different ones and throwing them in there, and it was delicious. So I can't be trusted with freezer fresh baked. No.
You just pull it out and you gotta, if anybody's trying to play along at home, you just make your normal cookie recipe, put them onto, I just use a sheet pan like I would if I was going to bake them, but ball them out and let them freeze independently, separately. And that way you can then pop and then take them and combine them into a bag and you can store them that way. So it's basically just DIY version of the whatever cut and bake or take and bake or whatever they call the cookies that you get.
But yours don't have like little snowmen on them, so I mean,
you don't know that. You're right, but you don't know that.
I have a hunch that they are not the ones with the pumpkins on the top.
They are not cross section pumpkin cookies, sadly.
Listen, you're having a bad day. You just if you're the kind of person who likes to snack when you're having a bad day, go to the store, get you the little cut ones that don't have the eggs in them, and you just eat cookie dough, and that is such a
and now that Alexis has spoken to that cross section, I'll speak to the cross section. If you like to snack when you're having a good day, go to the section, get the ones that don't have eggs on them, eat the cookie dough. So either way, I think that's a Venn diagram representing 100% of the population. Some people like to snack when they're having a bad or a good day.
Honestly, I'm never going to turn down a good snack. I'm not. So it doesn't matter.
Right. So cookie dough can be the beam of light regardless of where you are.
I hope cookie dough is everyone's beam of light that can eat cookie dough, because sorry for your loss, gluten people.
Ooh. I feel like to me cookies are one of the things that is least negatively impacted by, or like like the gluten-free version is less of a step down than others, because cookies, they aren't as reliant on the the glutinousness of it, but
True, true.
even so,
I have a friend
still
who
sorry for your loss, but
yeah, still sorry for your loss. I have a friend who can't do, gluten, butter, or eggs, so she got some vegan cookies, that my other friend makes. She makes a big box of cookies for Christmas, and so she got all vegan cookies, and, my friend Victoria was pretty proud of herself. She's like, "Pretty much nailed vegan cookies," and I was like, I'm curious on what those taste like, but I trust you. I trust you. I'm excited for you.
yeah. I mean,
Imma eat it. I'm gonna eat it.
yeah. We once upon a time, Annie and I were, engaged in a vegan diet, and, it's amazing because you know what? Sugar is vegan.
Mm.
So,
Very true. You're like, it's not that bad.
it's I mean, sugar and salt, always been vegan.
True. And if you're not
Uh,
gluten free, then flour is also fine,
yep,
I'm
and
assuming.
and,
So,
like, fat there's a lot of fat that doesn't come from animals
mhm,
that is
mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah, love it.
So, anyway, um,
We're not here to talk about cookies, or
nor are
at
we
least not.
steamrolling Ray and Jessica, who are sitting in the wings. It's actually just the 2 of us, which is perhaps a great decision or a terrible mistake. We'll figure it
You
out
can
by the end
decide
of the episode. Um,
how many stars we get on this episode.
and Alexis was saying it's because people who work in the counties are really lazy before we got on, and I just wanted to give you a chance, give you the floor to clarify that. Clarify what you meant.
They basically never do anything. They're not constantly answering phone calls or answering questions if people walk in. They're
Yeah.
just sitting around, she says with
And
satire, for those of you who
I
don't
thought
know me.
I thought that saying that it was like it goes deeper than that to like their character. You were questioning their character, and if you wanted to
Just in
expand on
general,
that.
they're people who don't like to
Yeah.
work. Jessica and Ray just
No, poor
hate.
Jessica and Ray are dealing with some other things, and we had a window to sneak in a podcast episode here and wanted to. Um, and what do we want to talk about, Alexis?
Oh, the good old-fashioned question talking about pricing, because it's important and it's confusing. So we thought we'd maybe, hopefully, clear some things up for you guys.
Yeah, so we talked a couple weeks ago about the credit card fees thing, and we
Mhm.
said even if your customer understands that the fees have gone up, or they understand that you need to recoup that or whatever, they still may in fact just get mad at you if you charge them a surprise credit card fee when you go to checkout. And that's psychology. That's interpersonal communication. That's it shows the fact that not all considerations, maybe even most considerations of things like math and economics and other things, are not necessarily always logical or rational, and they may take emotion or just
Yeah.
simple parlor tricks in, like, here, I'm going to give
Now
you
you
a
see
cash
it, now
discount.
you
Now
know
you
it.
feel good. The net overall effect to my business for that versus the credit card fee is the same, but you walk
Right.
away feeling good.
That's the goal, man.
And so that's kind of the spirit, a little bit of the spirit of what we're going to talk about. And so, as the person who hangs his hat, coat, something else in the ag economics department, I'm going to kind of lead us through the conversation. But Alexis has a lot of experience and thoughts on this as well. The thing I want to start with, this is something we talk about in extension a lot. We talk any sort of business, anything is going to start with this idea that, like, you need to understand as a business what it costs you to get a product or whatever to market.
Amen, brother.
If you don't understand that, if you don't know what that is or approximately what that is, what can end up happening is that you're selling it to someone else for less money than it costs you to make.
Mhm.
And in the midterm, short term, even sometimes, that as a business decision is not going to be sustainable unless you have a ton of money. So, like, if you are
Then why are you
Spotify,
going into business for yourself? It's hard.
right? If you're
Don't do it.
Spotify, or if you're Amazon, and you have this constant, influx of capital, and there's all these other complex things happening, you may have heard, Spotify doesn't turn a profit, or Amazon didn't turn a profit for a bajillion years, and that can be true. But in your smaller business, that's not a good strategy. So we're not suggesting that all math should be thrown out in terms of setting prices. But as we talk about, setting some prices and thinking about these different strategies that I think show examples of some of the psychology behind pricing, keep in mind that at every stage there is an implicit message of, as long as the price that you're charging makes sense and is more than what it's
Yes.
costing you to sell it for,
Right.
or as part of your overall product mix, you're making more money than you would otherwise,
Yeah.
or sorry, you're making more money than you are putting in to the products.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the idea sometimes you hear about it in groceries a lot, especially with flowers, is like there's I forget what they're called, like is it a liter loss or
Loss leader.
there's some loss leader. Thank you. I wasn't too far off, just switched them around.
Leader comma
That
loss in the index.
yeah, and I think for small business, I would say that I get that. Sometimes you're trying to bring people to your booth, so you want to, advertise something low, but I hope that you're never actually losing money. At a bare minimum, that loss leader that you might have is at least going to pay for itself, is
Mhm.
sort of the way I like to think about it. And again, this is just probably a little more personal than it is statistics saying that. But if that's something that you want to try, and I say that as someone who's, for example, doing tulips in the winter, because I'm trying to keep my customer base around a little longer. I'm not going to make a ton of money on that, but it keeps my customers involved with me. So it's again that kind of psychology, going back to the price. But I certainly would never want to lose money on something in order to keep a customer, customers around or something along those lines. So yeah, but the biggest question is, what is your cost to produce that? Anytime you ask someone, especially the CCD, what you should be pricing something at, we're going to ask you, how much does it cost you to produce it? And that's the first one, but we'll
Yeah.
get through that. You all know that.
Well, that loss leader thing is an interesting part of it. It's a good entree into this discussion of psychology. And just for those who aren't familiar, it's this idea that you may sell a product for either less profit or no profit
Mm-hmm.
for some other advantage to your overall product mix. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like in a grocery store, some of the classic examples are like those $5 rotisserie chickens that you get
Mm-hmm.
at whatever place. And you ask yourself, how on earth could they produce a rotisserie chicken and sell it at a profit for $5? Well, in many cases, they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But very few people go in, just get their rotisserie chicken and roll out. Now, if you do that, huge props to you. Okay. Respect.
And then you eat it in the parking lot.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's gone by the time you get to your car. And another example, just to stay in the poultry universe, the turkey that you buy for Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
they may have a great price on it. That's like crazy good price.
Mm-hmm.
But their understanding with that is that they're going to get you into the store and you're going to buy all the other things where
The
their margin is
stuffing.
higher, the amount of money they make off each of those processed
Right.
things or stuffing or cranberry sauce or the drink that you buy because you need a caffeine pick me up as as you are in line on the way out, or the toys that your kids beg you
The
for, and
add-ons.
all of those things that, so you could have a loss leader to get people in. An example of this from um, the like more
Farmers
farmers
market.
markety world is you might have your tomatoes that you sell at a like the difference between the price you charge and how much it costs you to produce might be smaller. You may only have a 10% markup on your tomatoes, but you have signage, you have other things supporting the idea of, doesn't a nice fresh salad sound really good tonight? You
Mm-hmm.
have lettuce and your markup on the lettuce is 40%.
Mm-hmm.
And
You're
so you get
supporting.
people in to buy the tomatoes, you make a little less money on the tomatoes, and then the lettuce, your markup on that is a little bit higher. And so you end up on the total purchase making more money, and you have captured a customer who wouldn't have bought from you unless they could get a decent deal on tomatoes in the first place. So that's the
Right.
loss leader concept in this space. And as you can see, that's not really, it's not like a super rational thing. That's saying like, I'm going to get this person to buy from me. Well, if a rational person would go and find the absolute best price on tomatoes, and then they would go to the next person and find the best price on lettuce, and the next person and
Mhm.
find the best price on their bacon they're going to chop up and make bacon bits with. And if you can kind of package things, which is something we'll talk about here in a little bit, that's the type of strategy that you can use in your sales and in your pricing to offset stuff. So another one here, this is something I know Alexis and I have talked about actually recently, is people tend to have a really we tend to take a lot from our first impressions of things. And so if the first price that you hear is for, for a given product, that's kind of, we tend to anchor on that point. So like, let's say I've got ground beef for $4.99, I got ribeyes for $21.99, and I got extra premium uh
Kobe beef.
horticulture. We're talking horticulture here. Sorry, I need to back off
Yeah,
the
I know.
meat.
What's with your like
Sorry.
poultry? Like, rein it in there.
So if I tell you I've got tomatoes for $4 a pound,
Hmm.
or I've got premium heirloom tomatoes for $6 a pound,
Hmm.
just simply reversing the order of that gives a different impression. So when the first price you hear is $4, and so that's the baseline. And then the next thing that you heard was more expensive than that. So now you're thinking, okay, well, that's really expensive. If I start it in the opposite direction, I've got premium heirloom tomatoes for $6. Then I have standard slicers, still homegrown, still vine ripened, for $4 a pound. Suddenly the $4 sounds more affordable than it did before.
Right.
In a product mix, the ordering is part of it, but the product mix is also part of it. I know you've talked about that, Alexis, with like bouquets, for instance.
Yeah, I tend to kind of tell people in the way of, if there is something you really need to sell. So, maybe you have a bajillion standard slicers this week and you really are trying to move them, then that you're going to set those as the ideal price. I also tend to think of like, what do I want to create? What do I want to sell? What is even my goal price point? Because in flowers, we do a lot of like holidays, and there's planning, the number of stems that goes into it, blah blah blah, all this other math that goes into flowers. But saying like, my ideal price point is $30, then I'm going to do one more deluxe bouquet or whatever that is, that might be $55. And so then people are more interested in that $30 one, which is actually my ideal price point. So I kind of tend to think of it, it's exactly the same general concept, but I think about it a little bit of a different way, with, a luxury item, so to speak. But for sure, I mean, you think about when are told prices just on anything, that high price first. Yes, it's, maybe a higher quality product or whatever. You're getting what you pay for there. No one's cheating you out of that, product. But that second price sounds really good when you realize how cheap something could be. And then if not, then you get to sell your heirloom tomatoes for higher price, right? So it's kind of a win-win either way, if you frame it correctly.
And as far as like where you might implement this, you could do it on your signage. You could do it on, if you had to do advertisements of some sort, promotions of some sort, email lists, that sort of thing. It's just thinking about having a reference point rather than my single product costs this much.
Mm-hmm.
Having some sort of a counterpoint. It's getting to the point where even some grocery store prices are comparable to what I see people charging at farmers markets. And so you may take a quick trip by the grocery store and see what the price is for some of the products that you're
Mm,
selling, and even put a side by side comparison of like, grocery
yeah,
store price was this, and here's why this is better. But it gives at least a reference point that people aren't going to think in their mind, this is
that
way
sounds
more expensive
expensive.
than the grocery
Yeah.
store. Well, actually, it's not. Remember that time when you checked out with 10 items in your, what felt like 10 items in your cart, and it was $100?
Uh-huh.
Um, I
We
do,
actually
because it
did
happens
that
to me all the time.
during COVID. I helped with aggregate a bunch of farmers into one CSA. And of course, it was COVID. We know prices were higher, but we're seeing prices climb again. And so we actually did, take a standard CSA box that we had done previously, for standard month, and compared it to prices at the time as best you could, right? Like, a
Sure.
lot of the time, the box stores are not going to have really great heirloom tomatoes or something, but as close as you can. And it was shocking to put those side by side and to see like, yeah, well, you could not go shopping and just pick all these things out. And so that's a really good point. You also, like, in kind of in notes as we were planning for this, Brett put something down, and I think it's really awesome to, I love thinking about it this way, but that this works because people judge prices relatively, not absolutely. right? And so
Yeah.
that's why we're saying put multiple price points in one spot where they can be seen or heard all at one time, because it's that absolute, or that relatively speaking thing. And I was like, that just hits home so hard for me.
Yeah, we always are. There's recency to it. There's irrelevance.
Mhm.
That sometimes I've heard people who are like not nonprofits who are looking for a donation. They'll always put it in terms of like $4. We want you to commit to $4 a week or $4 a month contributing to our campaign or to our general
Mhm.
fund or whatever. That's like less than the cup of one mocha at Starbucks or something like
Mhm.
that, and it gives you that reference point of saying, oh, okay, well, that I know what that is. I know
Right.
how much that costs, how much that impacts my budget,
Yeah, I'm
etc.
willing to, give that up or have another one type thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think another one, and it's a little, I'm going a little out of order on what we had sketched out, but it seems like a good um, spot for this is that I think one of the things with pricing sometimes is that people are looking to be just straight competitive in economic number terms.
Mhm.
In the local food space, especially when we're direct marketing, we tend to want to encourage people to be competitive based on the differentiation and the specialness of their product.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is, yeah, you're not trying to compete with the grocery store. If you happen to be competitive with the grocery store, that's a crazy thing
Bonus.
to tell people about. But in general, we're trying to tell our customers why something is special, why it's
Mhm.
unique, why it might cost more. And in some cases, you may change the perceived value of that product based on that. And so if I put out a very simple little handwritten, brown sign that says lettuce $3, or I take and maybe I mix and match a couple of lettuces, or maybe I just have a unique thing that I've grown and I market that as like a salad mix or like a premium
Mhm.
salad mix or a chef's blend or something like
Mhm.
that. I may be able to charge $5 for it because I've value added in the sense of the mind and the perception of the consumer. It has higher value than it did as just here's commodity lettuce that you have to turn into something special. Here's something that's already special.
Mhm. It's the experience. You're selling that, oh, the chef's blend, right? Like it's like being at a restaurant, right? It's the experience of going to a restaurant. And it kind of seems silly when you first say it. You're like, no one thinks that they're like but it's like this behind, somewhere deep in your brain where that just sounds better. And I think we can all probably point to a time where that's happened. Even some calling something, the deluxe, or adding those little words to it, I think can be really can really push people to be like, well, I want deluxe. I'm worth deluxe. Treat yourself. Treat
I'm a
yourself to
I'm
the
a
chef's
deluxe
blend.
caliber individual.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just the little naming of it. It's just something simple, and you're not really changing anything other than what you're writing down on your brown sign.
Yeah. Well, I have two strategies I want to talk about maybe together.
Okay.
Um, One you might think of as putting in a what would be called a decoy price, and then the other might be that you kind of you start to you play on the fact that people find uh whatever medium option to be reasonable. And so they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but I'll give you two examples here. So one would be, let's say you're selling blueberries, and you're just going to sell a small box for $4, a medium box for $7, or a large box, or maybe even an extra large box for $8.
Hmm.
So that's one scenario. What to you jumps out about that? Do you think, Alexis?
I mean, immediately you're like, man, if a large box is, or if a medium box is $7 and a large box is $8, why wouldn't I spend another dollar to get the large box? Like, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, obvious.
And look, the large box is like more than double the size of the small box.
Hmm.
And we should be eating more blueberries anyway because of antioxidants. And there's all the other marketing messages that can kind of play into the fact that this product may have a health halo for your customer, or it may be
Hmm.
that their kids really like it, or they like the idea of supporting whatever. But in this case, that medium price that's in there, even offering the medium box in the first place, is what would
Mhm.
be our decoy.
Mhm.
It's the one to say, well, that medium box is crazy overpriced when I can just get the large box for $8 more. It's kind of the similar psychology of upselling in general with like a supersize me thing,
Mhm.
where instead of saying the giant meal costs $10 and the medium meal costs, $9 and the regular meal costs $6, you can just jump straight from the regular meal to the supersize me, and all we're going to upcharge you is that, 80 cents or a dollar or whatever. And the person's
Mhm.
not necessarily going to do the math because they're perceiving that they're getting more for not that much more
Right.
money.
They're getting a deal.
And so that, again, that medium one there is to push people towards selling the larger box. And so in this case, like for me, if I was trying to move more volume of product, this would be something I would think about.
Mhm.
I think sometimes people have a tendency to rush to want to give people a bulk discount or a larger volume discount. And sometimes that's good. That's good. But if your product is highly in demand and you're constantly always selling
Yep.
out, then giving people a huge discount on more volume is not necessarily in your best interest as a business. Like if you can
Yeah.
sell pints for $5 all day, there's no reason to sell quarts for $8.
Mhm.
Frankly.
100%. Yeah.
um,
Same in the flower world, that's sort of equivalent to like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. It's like I can sell if I can sell every flower at a retail price, why would I ever, other than, efficiency and just, ease of selling to one location, but from a strictly a price standpoint, why would I ever sell them wholesale if I can sell every stem retail price? And it's, yeah, the same concept. And one like thought it bleeds into sort of this a different strategy of this like price framing of you can do something for $3 each or two for $5. You can almost combine that with that decoy pricing, because if you say one pint is $5, or you can get two pints for $9, that they're saving a dollar and you're moving more product. So if you have a lot of blueberries and you're like, if they don't sell this weekend, they're going to go bad, kind of thing.
mhm.
And you can afford to do that. And so, or, even pricing that individual one higher, you only want to make $5 off of it. That's your goal. So you're going to price the individual at $6, but price for two for 10. So you're again, um it's not cheating. You're just,
Mhm.
and in a way they're getting better deal and you're making what you want to get. So yeah, those kind of bleed together a little bit, that idea of decoy pricing and then just this bundled pricing.
Yeah, and just to reiterate and put a little, even a finer point on this, you go through your math and you say, okay, I'm producing this cucumber, and what I need in order to make money, in order to make back my costs plus the amount of margin that I want to make, I need to sell this cucumber for 75 cents. I know in my mind if I was just going to charge based on making the money that I want to make, it's 75 cents. Well, I go to my stand and I go to price and I say, okay, the cost for, again, 75 cents was what I wanted to make on that one. And I say, I will sell you one cucumber for a dollar,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll sell you two for $1.50.
Right.
In other words, I'm telling you, if you want, I'm not telling you, but in the back of my mind, I'm saying, if you want to buy just one cucumber, I'm going to actually charge you a 25-cent fee
Convenience fee. Yeah.
of having to buy that one. It reminds me a little bit like in the trades world, like in having your furnace worked on or having something replaced at your house or whatever.
Hmm.
If there is a job that a contractor does not want to do,
Yeah.
they will often quote you a price that is crazy high. And what they're
Uh-huh.
saying is, if you want to pay the crazy high pain
I'm
in the
willing
butt
to do it.
price, I'm more than willing to do that. If you want me to crawl in your gross crawl space and deal with this, I'll charge you that. Like, yeah, sure. If you want to pay 20% over market,
Yeah.
sure, that sounds good. But if you don't, you don't. It's a similar thing with the decoy pricing. It's like I don't actually want to sell anything at a dollar. I want to sell it at 75 cents, but I want to move two at once. And you're playing on the psychology of, well, I'm getting a better deal by buying two.
Right.
So that's kind of like, it's not like you're the price that you're needing to get is $1 and you're voluntarily giving discounts.
Right.
And I think just going back to that cost thing,
Mhm.
making sure you understand your costs plus the amount of margin that you're wanting to make. A different variation on this is when you are in fact trying to move something at the middle of the price point. And
Mhm.
so, for instance, you say, you have in the cut flower world, I've got my basic bouquet, which is $10. I've got a seasonal bouquet, which is $18. I don't know why you would call it seasonal. This is just the example that I have written out here. Let's say basic. Let's say, what would be a
Premium?
better middle one? And then we have to change premium. So like,
Oh, deluxe. I use the word deluxe a lot.
and deluxe
I
is
don't know.
top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got basic bouquet $10, premium bouquet $18, deluxe bouquet $30.
Mhm.
People will now, combining the top price being a reference point, the bottom price being a reference point, and the one in the middle being slightly, in this case, so 10, 18, 30, it's slightly below the midpoint. That medium one feels like, I'm splurging on myself, but
Yeah.
I'm being reasonable here.
Right.
And as a business, I'm actually wanting to sell the middle point bouquet. I will sell you the premium, the deluxe one. I'll sell you
Mhm.
that all day if you want it. But I know that more customers are willing to hit that middle point of pricing. And that 3 reference points, against pricing is referential, lets me know I'm not being crazy. I'm still below $20. That's
Uh-huh.
another psychological tipping point. I'm still below this. We have a base 10
Made
number
up
system
thing.
thing, 10, 20, 100, for whatever reason that psychologically plays with us. It's below that. It's $18.
Mhm.
Do you ever play around with that kind of thing, Alexis? Or
Yeah, I think I kind of referenced that in a little bit of a different way earlier with, I have my goal price that I would like more people to buy. So I'm going to price something higher so that they feel that. And sounds like what I need to do is create a lower price point in some way. But yeah, I think it's good, and especially in the flower world, people are often buying for someone else, so they don't want to be the cheapskate, even though no one will probably know what they spend. In their mind, they don't want to be cheap. They don't want to buy their friend the cheapest thing, but
right,
they also maybe weren't planning on spending that much, or maybe they're giving them something else an additional. And so again, that right in the middle of the road, whatever price point that is, feels reasonable because you're not being cheap, but you're also being responsible by not doing the top tier. For sure, I think that makes sense. Or like same could be said in the cucumber world. Do you want the smaller cucumbers that aren't super pretty but taste good, or do you want the really fancy English cucumbers that are perfect and seedless and all of that, or do you want just like the pickling cucumber that does the job that you want it to do and is right that middle of the road? And yeah, those three different price, the more often I think you can have sort of three different price points, as long as it makes sense for you and your business, as far as like, the time you have and the efficiency sake, I think
right.
it's the way to go.
Another way to do it would be to make the lower tier option like slightly less attractive. So in other
Mm,
words, the basic bouquet, the $10 one, is like, it doesn't suck. We still want it to be nice, but it
it's a
might
lot
be
smaller.
there
It's
might be a
visually
50.
not as impactful.
Yeah, there might be a 50% markup on the amount that you would
Mhm.
normally charge for those stems individually as part of a retail bouquet.
Yes.
The seasonal bouquet may be a 30% markup, which is where you're targeting for your business, but people don't, in the world don't know that. And so when they look at the basic bouquet for 10 or the medium bouquet for 18, where you're getting a ton more stems relatively in terms of value, it becomes even more of a no-brainer of like,
Yeah.
that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
And the reality is we don't actually want people to buy the basic bouquets. We will sell
Mhm.
them to them, but we don't want them to buy that. We want them to buy seasonal and above.
Mhm.
And again, it could be a thing where you actually even have a markup where you're like, okay, you're going to buy a seasonal bouquet. Do you want to add a splash of dahlias for $5?
Mm. Mhm.
And so now they've bought 18. They're already in on the consumer purchase. $5 more. Okay, it's going to take it up to, I'm not good at math, I don't know, 23, which is still less than 30, but Splash of Dahlias sounds cool and it's fun. And that's a nice party, story later for
Makes
my
it
dinner party
special.
when I
Yeah.
have this. So anyway, that's just another psychological kind of way of doing is the idea of
Oh, yeah,
the
I
plus up.
100% in the cheaper option, the stems are more per stem. The markup is higher per stem in the smaller option. So like if you're a person like me who does the math a lot of the time when I see stuff, I'd be like, "Well, those are 350 a stem. Those are 250 a stem. So why would I get those? I'm getting more for them." So, yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think also just to going back before we move on from the bundling concept,
Mhm.
another way of doing a bundle or doing a even just a value add, you know, uh,
Mhm.
naming and adding value is to take and bundle unlike or products that aren't all the same together
Mhm.
in some sort of a the way example I give is like here's the Wednesday night dinner package. And
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
got some carrots, it's got some potatoes, it's got some a roast of some sort, and maybe like a bag of fruit that's like for dessert or something. And you sort of pitch it as here's the mealtime, here's the meal bundled meal thing. And the total value of that is still the amount of money that you make, but it's a little cheaper than it would be if people bought all of those things independently and
Individually.
separately.
Mhm.
That's just another kind of psychological way of approaching pricing
I love
and,
me a bundle. Someone's like, "Here is your salad kit. You can go home and make a really delicious salad. You just get this one thing that's already together for you." Yes, please. I will take it. Give it to me. Here's my money.
so what about scarcity? What about limited a dish? We were looking through some colleague Gabe and I were looking through some market information about the dairy industry. And one of these things one of these dashboards that we can access, it tells you like what claims are like in vogue for given product packaging. So, is it high protein or is it
Oh,
animal ethics or is it GMOs or is it whatever?
this year it's all about the fiber.
One one of them, and it has to be. I don't know if I have no idea, but one of them was like for soft cheeses. One of the top claims was limited edition.
Like, is that cow gonna die soon?
All I know is I want in before the
Immediately
limited
taking my
edition.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pokemon cards and Beanie Babies have given way to
Yeah.
soft cheeses as
Millennials are in.
the collectible to have for the Gen Z crowd. But as silly as that sounds, the notion of scarcity can be an important part of um, it influences people's willingness to pay, but it also influences even just their conversion to be willing to pay the price that you are
Mhm.
charging. So examples of this, I think, could be that these are the first of the season. That kind of makes it
Mhm.
special or unique, and often at the beginning of the year, yields are maybe a
First
little
strawberries
lower.
of the year. Mm.
Mhm. I think comparably last of the season. It
Mhm.
could be this is your last chance to get vine ripened tomatoes this year, or this is we're going to be out or whatever. Even some other language that I saw suggested was the idea that we've only got 12 boxes of this, or we only have 10 dozen ears of corn this week, so come get them.
Yep.
Again, it hopefully moves people to buy that specific product, but
Mhm.
also to move to come into your booth or come to your business or whatever, whether it be a stand out,
Mhm.
and they'll see it. You have other things for sale, and then your other merchandising elsewhere comes into play, and you have to do those things. But
Yeah. You can use this, in CSAs as well. So, saying like we only have, 20 spots for a CSA, or, advertising that you only have 10 spots left or something like that, I think is really drives people. I mean, when I think about it's always that thing I'm interested in it. I'm going to think on it a little bit, maybe buying something. I'm going to think on joining that CSA, but I'm definitely interested. I've been seeing their posts. They've been doing all the things, and I've been looking at their website a couple times. But then when I see that maybe they only have 5 spots left, I'm like, oh, okay. It's like make or break time. I got to make that decision. And most of the time, I'm like, all right, I'm in. And so that's going to push me to do that. And I think if you're selling stuff online as well, you can, from a availability standpoint, say you maybe have 15 of something available, maybe put in that you only have 10, and then not only does that like save you a little time, but that little red alert is going to pop up when people click on it, and it's going to say only 3 left. And that maybe happens a little bit sooner, and then you can always add inventory as you go. But I do think that little only 3 left, only 5 left in this area does drive people to do that. And you may think, well, isn't that a little like deceptive if I'm telling people I have 10 spots and I have 15? I don't know. That's up to you. That's a decision I think you can make on that. But they're going to get a great quality product out of it. So it's not like you're cheating them out of anything. So
Yeah, scarcity does drive drives people to act. I mean, people, when there's scarcity over things that people don't even care about, the fact that
Mhm.
it's like, why are you fighting
I
over
mean, we
this? I
just went
don't
through
understand.
snowstorms, right? Milk, bread, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you have a
Okay.
bunch at home, you're going to need more because you might not be able to get it. So,
So here's one. I'm curious your thoughts about this. In the olden days, people would sometimes you would see stuff, I almost conjures images of um, infomercials in my head of only 3 easy payments of $39.95, right? That the idea of if you can get your price to fall just under,
uh-huh.
I
One of
think,
those major, like, whole numbers. Yeah.
yeah,
10, 20,
I
30.
think
Yeah.
I think that's called charm pricing. But regardless, it's not $20. It's 19.95.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, that kind of used to be a retail thing that happened that people were into and promoted because there was a psychology of seeing 20 versus 19 did.
Hmm.
Just like we talked about earlier with the $18 bouquet instead of the 20. I think there is some of that, but I think there's also I'm curious what your thoughts are, Alexis.
Yeah, I've heard that, and some of the grocery stores that I know buy some local product of, like, they're gonna price something at 14.95 or 19.95 or something like that, because to they still they still think, or have witnessed in their stores, or I don't know where they're getting this, that like you said, putting the 20 or putting the solid 15 scares people away. I think I'd rather, to your point, that 95 or 99 is straight up like old school infomercials, and I feel it feels ickier. I don't know. It feels more, in my opinion, more like the salesman that none of the used car salesmen, all of us are trying not to be. Those
Mm-hmm.
of us who are trying to make sales. I'd rather say it's, $19 flat fee, or $18, or try and adjust my product to a whole round, easy cash number of, $15 or something like that. I think you can still get the same uh, idea of like, oh, well, it's less than 20 or it's less than $10. You can still get that same hit without the like ick of the 95.99 thing. There's something about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that the more round number feels to me feels a little more modern, and it
Mm,
also feels it human, like it almost humanizes the business
yeah.
and the
It's like they're
charge.
gonna round up, right? Like, you don't see something and say, "Oh, it's 19.95." I see it and I read 19.95 in my brain. I'm like, it's 20 bucks,
20 bucks. Yeah.
So why not just call it that if that's the price it needs to be?
And I think in larger scale situations, especially when a person is evaluating a bunch of different options right next to each other,
Mm,
you got this salsa and it's 3.99, and I got this salsa and it's 4.25. Well, I'm going to get the 3.95 one,
yeah.
as
Yeah, that's
compared
true.
to a situation where like the business and the product are just different.
Mhm.
And this is why, I talk about like earlier that we're trying to be competitive on price through differentiation and increasing the value and perceived value of what's being sold rather than just strictly trying to reduce the price to the point where the
Mhm.
customer is going to be able to accept it.
Right.
Um, an example that I thought of that like it's and this is now dated. Like I'm a elder millennial, not a boomer, but even this is dated, but it does indicate the difference. I think about like the Mac store or like Apple and the way that they
Mhm.
sell their products. They have not used a decimalized price thing in like decades. And people
Oh,
think of
yeah.
Apple, they think of the Mac store as like hip and modern and hybrid. Again, I am old. I understand that this is not the cutting edge like it was back then. But the idea of here's this very simple thing, it doesn't come with a really long manual, and the price is they still play with it. So they're not going to charge $1,000 for something. They're going to do $999, but
Mhm.
$999. But that to me is like a step in that direction. And if you're offering a
Mhm.
smaller scale, artisanal, special product, there can also be a feeling of like honesty or communicating, authentically and truly. Here's look, there's no baloney on this. This
Mhm.
is how much it is. Um, so yeah, that's another interesting one in the spaces that we are in.
Oh, that's a good point. I did never thought about the fact that they didn't use decimals since, they don't say 999 and 99 cents. Like, you round
Right.
up the dollar in your brain.
Yeah. Well, and like another example would be like if you go to a really hip artisanal coffee shop,
Mhm.
often you'll see Americano 4.
Mhm.
There's not even a dollar sign. It's
Yeah.
like the number 4. Now go to a like more of a like a less hip one. Maybe it's like this coffee's a dollar 50. Go to McDonald's and it's 99 cents or it's
Right.
a dollar 19 or whatever. And I think that where are you falling in the spectrum? You don't have to quite be that chic and that hip, but you also don't have to charge $3.99 for your tomatoes. You can just say they're $4 a pound,
Mhm.
and people might appreciate that or associate something with that. A last one here that I thought maybe this isn't necessarily how to price your products, but it's like kind of how to stand behind your price and
Yeah.
the value. There's a little bit of like a pep talk coming, I guess. So you've done the math, you know what your costs are, you know how much money you need to make. You've done a little bit of market research, you've seen the prices out in the ether, in the surrounding spaces, whether that be grocery store, other vendors, other businesses, other where depending on where you are. And based on your costs, this is how much money I need to make, and this is a fair price in the market. And then you do your jiggery pokery to figure out exactly where you're going to price your product. Well, you now know the value of your product. You know its value in
Mhm.
the marketplace, you know its cost, you know all those things. Now is not the time to get sheepish.
Yeah. You've done the work.
You've done the work. You have ground to stand on. And guess what? Some people are always going to complain about it. Some people will come up and just ask, and you will think that they're complaining, and you'll preemptively get sheepish about it and like, oh. But the example that I kind of sketched out here was somebody comes up and asks, how much are these tomatoes? And let's say you are in a market where charging $4 a pound for your tomatoes is borderline scandalous. You may feel like, oh, I'm going to almost have to apologize. But if you go into that interaction, people respect confidence. They respond to
Mhm.
confidence. If you go into that saying, oh, they're $4 a pound.
What?
What? $4 a pound? Oh my, oh, yeah. As compared to saying they're $4 a pound. That's actually, this heirloom variety that we really like because it's really flavorful, and we actually picked those this morning.
Mhm.
It's a very different tone. You're explaining the value, the special value of the thing. You're always going to have people complain. You're
Sure.
always going to have people who want to buy 3 pounds of tomatoes at 1978 prices, and there's nothing you can do about that. But the idea of being confident in your product, that it's special, it's unique, it's good. Again, we're working to differentiate as a way to make value clear to the customer.
Mhm.
You're going to have to stand on business.
Yeah. I want you to internalize, and this I feel like it changed the game for me when I finally, like, really internalize this was like, not everyone is your customer. Sure, we're trying to be as broad, right? Because that's good for business, but not everyone is your customer. And even more, here's the one that personally still gets me sometimes. You might not be your own customer. And sometimes I think we see farmers do that because we naturally undervalue what we do. And so in our brain, it's crazy to spend $4 a pound on tomatoes because, you know what went into it and stuff, and you're probably forgetting all the labor and sweat and tears you put into it usually, but it's a lot easier for us to undervalue it because we walk out to pick it, right? Or I think for a lot of people, maybe not all of you, send me your wisdom, but not everybody is your customer. That is an okay thing. That's often better for business. You can find your customer and help them better. And also, you might not be your own customer. And man, when I learned that, someone said that in the flower world, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a fact. I'm a cheapo, So in
Right.
some ways you might not be, but that doesn't mean your product isn't worth it. You did, like Brett said, you did the research, and so stand by it with confidence. You got the receipts to back you up. So
I think to that point about that, it could be also that some markets aren't your market.
mm-hmm.
It's not just even individual consumers. If you go to a certain, farmer's market, or you pitch your CSA in a certain geographical location and people are
Mm-hmm.
all balking at the price, that does not mean that what you have is not valuable. It does not mean that your price is wrong. It could
Right.
mean those things, but it does not necessarily mean those things. It just means that's not necessarily the place that you need to go and sell. And I think this is one of those business management components to the work that we do that I
Mm-hmm.
would say gets frustrating. I get frustrated on behalf of the people that are
Yeah,
asking the questions,
hard.
is that people seem to go into a situation determined that they want to do everything that they can to make a marketing situation work.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this is actually supposed to work is that you offer your product at the price that you need. The buyer decides whether they're going to purchase it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the course of time, you realize this isn't profitable for me. I'm going to change tack or whatever.
Yep.
It's not, I'm going to put myself through a whole world of pain to convince these people that what I'm offering is worth what I'm asking, or reduce
Mhm.
the amount that I'm asking so that they will at least show me a little bit of love and buy something. Sometimes it is about like, this isn't going to work for me.
Mhm.
And it's a hard conversation to have because people will have bought a farm in a particular place and they thought that they could make a market work or
Yeah.
whatever. But there are many situations where you have set the price correctly, and it's not about your numbers are wrong. It's
Mhm.
about your expectations of the market or of the people in a place. It's about how highly valued what you offer is in that particular place or space.
Mhm.
And in some cases, you can communicate your way out of that. You can say, here's why my product is special. And
Mhm.
some people will hear that and they say, I hear you, but it's not $4 a pound special.
Yeah.
And there's not really a whole lot you can't really do a whole lot to change people's mind necessarily in that case. Like, you might think about offering some samples,
Mhm.
or you may try, there's some mitigation you can do, but there needs to be a little bit of a matchup, I think, of values in
Yeah.
the first place
Yeah.
before you.
Just we're here to tell you or remind you that it is okay to switch gears in business. And so whether it's what you grow, what you price, where you market it, that like you don't have to have gotten it right the first time or the second time. You know what? Two rodeos is not a whole lot of rodeos to know
It's not a
supposed to
lot of
know what you're
rodeos.
doing, right? So we're just here to remind you it's okay to switch gears, but you've got to know your numbers to do that. So knowing your cost of production is just a really great place to start. If you're
Yeah. So
not sure if
let's go with a couple. Like, let's think of a couple of examples of what was the word that you used? Pivot, or what was the word you said?
uh, I don't know what I
I mean,
said.
now I'm
You weren't
fixated on
listening?
rodeo. Now I'm just thinking about two rodeos. Isn't that
Two
many
rodeos.
rodeos?
This ain't my first rodeo.
You need to up,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm supposed to have it figured out by my second rodeo? That's not very many rodeos.
So one example would be, let's say, we'll stick with the flowers for a second. It could be that you are a flower grower. You are nerding out. You're into it. Your bulbs, your corms, your tubers,
Mm,
your
get it.
grace. You are seeds. You are power. You are the energy of that sacred flower, and you love it so much. And naturally, you gravitate toward growing some crazy stuff that
Mhm,
is hard to grow. It's
mhm.
hard to hold. It's hard to store. It's hard to do all those things.
Expensive to buy, all those things.
Expensive to buy. And if you were in Nashville, if you were in New York, you would have to be fighting people off to buy these products from you. But you're not in New York.
Mm,
You are in a rural Kentucky county
mhm,
and you are selling primarily at your farm stand or at your farmer's market, etc.
mhm.
You try it for a little while, no matter what people say, a dinner plate dahlia, they're not going to spend what is it, $4 a stem, $10 a stem, I don't even know.
Yeah, 5 to 6.
$5 to $6 a stem, that's insane to them.
Mhm.
How what would be some angles that you might think about for pivoting
Yeah.
in that
I had a
case?
similar question actually come up at, Oak conference in a certain way, and but, my first things are, do you have the ability to switch markets is usually my first question because to me as a plant person, as a horticulturist, it's a lot easier to shift markets. Again, this is just my personal plant nerdness. It's a lot easier to switch markets than to totally switch your production practices, especially if you're dealing with some crops like example with dahlia that's a little bit more perennial based. You've invested a lot of money into it, so I would say, can you switch markets? Is my first question. And if they say no, or I don't really want to, then it comes down. The next thing is, okay, do you know your, usually I ask this first, but it's like, if you know your cost of production, can you bring that price down? Where are you basing your price off of? Is it fair market value? And, they might say, yes, I have to get this in order to make money. Totally fine. Love that for you. The next question then is you don't want to switch markets. You can't change your price. So you've got to change your product if you want to stay in that market. So instead of the $5, $6 dahlia, dinner plate dahlias, maybe grow smaller dahlias that are $2 to $3. Or if people are just wanting bulk buckets or something like that, so you can have that available where they feel like they're getting a deal. There's a couple different things, or grow zinnias, and sometimes that's what people, give the people what they want, and you may even be able to have a higher markup on those just to make it worth it for you. But to them it's only $1 a stem, but maybe you're making 40% markup on that. Versus sometimes with dahlias it might be a $5 or $6 stem, but you might only be making 20% markup, right? So those are like kind of the places that I would start. Usually in the flower world, changing the market is going to be um, a good way to go because there are lots of options. And so it's not necessarily like changing the farmer's market you go to. That could definitely be it, going to a more popular, place where people have more funds to expend on a luxury item. But it could also be, oh, you're going to do DIY buckets for brides or something like that. And so it might just be that you switch the type of product you sell as far as packaging goes. You're still selling the dinner plate dahlias, but you're going to sell them to a bride for $5 instead of at the farmer's market. So that's
Yeah,
that's usually how I start with things, and I think it's pretty similar with veg, fruit, other things along those lines as well.
I think within that too, one thing I would point out is that it can be a blend of those things. That
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Very true.
okay, y'all don't love my dinner plate dahlias. I'm gonna go find somebody who does, but I still
Mhm.
like selling to you all because you like to buy bouquets for $5 or $10 each. I'm gonna give you
Yeah.
a $5 bouquet according to my price structure. I don't mean that in like a vindictive way. Like
Yeah,
I'm
no, it's
gonna
just like
give you
you
all a
want to stay
$5.
involved with the community so that,
Yep.
from a flower perspective, people might not be buying dinner plate dahlias from every week, but they know you have them. So when they do get married, they know to come to you, right? So you're almost using it as like a marketing
Or in
way.
some cases, you may end up making more money selling 200 $5 bouquets than
Yep,
you did on 10 of your dinner plate dahlias, and
totally.
that becomes this like, okay, what's the local value, what's the local
Mhm,
price point, and then working backward from that price point to think, okay, I know I can produce this kind of bouquet for $5.
mhm.
Um, Yeah, I think that like another example would be in the veg world. It could be that you produce some really specialty cool pickling cucumbers.
Mhm.
They're a vintage variety. They're special. People like they make the best pickles. They
Mhm.
stay firm in the jar. They do whatever. Blah 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 blah. People around you just don't care. Like
Or they don't
they like
can or
they
yeah,
know that they're good, and the couple,
they trust you.
the handful you gave them that they tried, they were like, "Those are the best pickles I've ever made." But 3 for, or 2 for $1 is too rich for my blood. I'm not going to buy them. Those same people might not blink an eye at paying $8 for a quart or a pint of those. And you
Mm,
may be able to take your product, get it into a jar, market it locally, but also market it elsewhere.
yeah.
That you can actually ship stuff. You can sell online. You can
Ship your
sell a
pickles.
value added product, assuming you're complying with all processing requirements, yada, yada, yada. You can sell that online in a way that you could not possibly have done, into your local market. And instead, you realize that people in the local market, they really just want some sweet corn, and you're able to grow
Mhm,
sweet corn super easy. You can harvest it super easy. You can bring it in as soon as you sell out. You hit the road, and you just a specialty corn specialist, or you're a sweet corn specialist locally, and you take all your specialty products and you sell them into some other markets that maybe value
mhm,
them more highly, or add value to them, so that you know $2 worth of retail cucumbers becomes $10 of retail pickles or
mhm.
whatever. um, so anyway, that's just another example of maybe adjusting. You see the price point, you know what you need to make. It's not working. Adjust the market, adjust the product, adjust your expectations and your messaging. If you've done all those, might be time to move on from that particular thing. So
Yeah.
we've gone a while, but pricing is one of those things people like to talk about, and we get amped on.
We get endless questions about pricing. It's hard, but I think if you've hopefully taken anything away from this, it has been that in order to do anything, you need to know the cost of production and don't forget your labor in there. And that can be scary, but you're not in trouble if you're not charging enough when you include your labor. That's just a mark that you need to get to, right? So it's better to Brett gave the example to me the other day of the pink elephant. Can you give that one real quick? I love it.
Yeah, so I have a presentation, and it has 3 slides, the first or 4 slides. One of them is it starts with just black, solid black. The room, there's an item in this room, and the lights are off. Who can tell me what this item is? Of course, nobody has any idea what it is. And so then I have a next slide where it's this blurry outline. The edges are blurry, but you can see that it's kind of a pink blob in the middle.
Mm,
Who has some idea of what this is, or something about what this is? Okay, it's
mhm.
pink. It's kind of roundish. It's surrounded by a white border. Okay, we have more information now than we did before.
Right.
Slightly less blurry picture. You can now see the outline. You can kind of tell that this is an elephant. Okay, so it's a pink elephant. And then I switch again and I go to a fully clear picture, and the pink elephant I think has a
Bandana
name
on
tag
it.
that says Fred.
Yeah.
And so a shot in the dark, this is a metaphor for our costs and our understanding of our business, underlying business vitals, if you will, is that a shot in the dark is worse than an educated guess.
Yes.
An educated guess is better than a shot in the dark, is another way of saying that. And then an educated guess that is improved by some analytics to the point to being like a good approximation is better than an educated guess. And
Mhm.
then a clear-eyed picture. So it's better to know this is a blob and it's pink. I can at least get in the ballpark of what it might be than just no information at all.
Right.
I don't have to get all the way to this is a pink elephant named Fred and he's smiling in
To be
order to have
successful.
some decent information to help to try to assure some success. And so that's just a pitch for trying to get some information down and then working toward improving that across time until you're able to say, because if you can tell me, I know it costs me between 50 cents and $1 to produce a
Mhm.
pound of tomatoes, instead of I know that it costs me 63 cents to produce a pound of tomatoes. Okay, I mean 63 cents would be better, but between 50 and $1 can get us a long way, as
Yeah.
opposed to I don't have any idea. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I love that. I love the visual that does, and hopefully that makes it seem less scary, right? Like all I got to do is like at a minimum produce a pink blob, right? Pink blob is better than nothing. So let me at least try the pink blob
Try the
approach.
pink blob.
Well, we hope you gained something out of this. If you have questions about pricing, of course, check out any of our resources on the Center for Crop Diversification. That's ccd.uky.edu. You can also shoot us an email when you email us on our horticulture one. All four of us will get that email, and the person that is the smartest on that topic will will hopefully email you back. And by hopefully, I mean hopefully it's a smart one, but someone definitely will. But we appreciate you being here with us today, and we hope you'll join us next time. Have a great one.